Let's
Humans of Earth, welcome to LAI Simplified. My name is Michael Rollins, and I am joined as always by my co-host Thanos, he of the Snap. And today we bring you more tales from the underside belly of AI. Thanos, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic, but I thought I was supposed to be doing the snap. Took away my snap,
Oh,
man.
I think actually you're right. I think I also could do
Yeah.
it, but it's probably not as prominent because I'm typically further away from the camera. I'm recording this from my office. So.
Well, if you're running your podcast to skip the first 30 seconds, you just missed on something completely different.
Yes, you definitely did. So, in light of that, shall we not get started?
What's exciting in the news recently?
So, the first thing was I don't know if you heard, but people were able to hack Instagram via prompt injection and take over other people's account.
I read that, and my
Uh,
first reaction was, that is awesome.
That's not awesome for the people whose account.
It's not awesome if you're Instagram either. But,
Oh, it is. It is.
you know,
Um,
their motto was or still is move fast and break things.
yeah, that's definitely the motto. For
Do we
anybody that
swear
is
on this
not,
podcast? I forget.
absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Is their motto also be shitty?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I remember
They
they recently
they
lost some kind of trial about like peddling stuff to teenage girls when they were told
yeah.
not to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. That was actually, what's interesting is that was a very novel prosecution. That was a very novel lawsuit. And it is the first one that has gotten around Section 230 protection for Meta. And as a result, it is very likely going to open up a cascade of ongoing lawsuits because
I'm very torn on that section because on one hand, the internet would sort of kind of collapse if we didn't have that. But at the same time, if you're consistently putting crap out there, there should be kind of some kind of accountability for you. So I don't know how you solve that one
yeah,
in a meaningful way.
accountability needs to come for the evil. And I am fairly certain that there are many people that would agree with me that Mr. Zuckerberg qualifies, but you never know.
Yeah. But at the same time, and
Allegedly.
sure, yes. But at the same time, like when you're putting out, when you're looking like ICE and they have this, the other thing in the news was that they have a database of protesters or not, right? That is literally when government is actually coming
Yeah.
for the citizenry through like their use of data. That is kind of when anonymity matters. So how do you like bridge that gap of having some kind of accountability because you're a real person, but at the same time, when the actual fascist thing does materialize, protect against it?
Well, and it's like the Section 230 thing protects them from liability based on the content that their users post. And as long as and it's actually, it's copyright. The only way to like control the internet is via copyright at this point. It's, dude, what a wild.
There was some argument rather than okay, there is the
Mhm.
content that the users post, but then when you put the algorithm and decides how to make it shown to people so that you incense them, that goes beyond what they posted, but now you're injecting in your own kind of
But
slant to
but
it.
that's but that's First Amendment because editorial choices are pretty clearly covered under First Amendment protections, which is actually why these people end running. And I don't remember the legal arguments and justification, but they managed to get around Section 230 and the First Amendment to effectively prosecute this case against Meta. And I can't wait. Somebody's going to be held accountable, and they deserve to be. So,
So if we haven't put our
um,
audience to sleep yet, they should go read that
I was gonna, yeah,
case.
I was gonna say,
What
yeah.
else exciting happened this week?
All right, so,
Any big models
so
came out?
well, let's cover the Instagram hacking thing real quick. So the Instagram is now they have an AI model that you can help you with things, right? Apparently, that model had access to an API, a set of API endpoints that should have been retired. And the API endpoints could allow you to add a telephone number to an existing account to then do the second factor authentication. And so people now the model just was like, oh no, I can't add this number willy-nilly. But people were able to prompt inject the model, which is probably one of their own models, and convince it to go find the API and then add numbers to the second factor list. And then they just took the account. And like,
That's
I have
genius.
known.
It's a surprise they didn't have the change password under MCP over there. It's like, I just want to call this
I,
API, just call it for me.
I mean, yeah. Well, but all right, listen, I'm here to tell you, we have known for a long time at this point that the agents talking to each other is a problem. And you have to be very careful with it. And so agents that can talk to other agents or agents that have access to sensitive systems should not be connected to your internet chatbot. Like, you are
Sure, but like,
literally
how do you prevent that, right?
asking for
Because that's an engineering question that you have a lot of endpoints and you add and remove things all the time. And this almost seems that there should be a linter on that system that says, okay, well, if this one, in their authorization section, if this contains is super user, is admin, is staff, then well, don't let that go in the MCP thing, right? And it's a deterministically solved problem for the better part. And I've done similar stuff where if you have a authentication pattern on your system, you can, and I did this recently, you can write a linter that says, you cannot add an endpoint unless it complies this authentication pattern, and you can check for
Oh, I
things
see
in
what you're
there.
saying.
So
This
you
is
cannot do a
before the
dumb and say, hey, I'm going to put the reset password, forgot to put the annotation that says must have staff privileges, and just let it out in the loose.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I mean, that
So
sounds
it's
reasonable.
fun to, it's fun to make fun of Instagram because it's Instagram.
Yeah.
But, I think this is kind of one of those, okay, well, you did that dumb, now you've learned it and don't do that again.
Yeah.
But I don't see that as a fatal problem with the tech. It's just like you had crap processes and then AI made them more visible or fasterly accessible to people.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, there is a major fatal problem with the tech, and that you can't stop prompt injection. And by the way, you can't use another model to stop prompted. Like, people are like,
Right.
what?
But when you execute tools, it's actually when you have a deterministic process in place, right? Because you can put
Yeah.
permission check
Yeah.
on tools and say, you may not do this. No matter what the user does, don't run this tool. Like, that is deterministic.
Yeah, it's an authorization issue. So yes, I do agree with that. The question is can you get to a model can you get to an agent that's authorized? There's not a clear answer to that. So, however, all that aside, this is going to become more common. I don't know if you've seen the people that are making a game out of getting oh God, what's the burrito place?
So near Seasick, it's delicious.
No.
Got the
Like,
mission location, they're downtown, the food truck.
no. This is a nationwide chain. It'll occur to me as soon as we hit
You're not
record.
talking about Taco Bell,
No, not Taco Bell.
because that's barely food.
Place. They're a colon blow place. Fun story. My daughter will sometimes, or up until recently, would text me, "Hey, Daddy, can you give me some gas money?" And so I would give her gas money, and then I would find out that it was spent at Taco Bell first. And I'm like, I don't know that we have the same understanding of gas.
But gas versus
Um,
Taco Bell, it's kind of like,
Oh no,
it's a
gas.
toss up.
Taco Bell will give you gas, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's what I understood.
I wouldn't be surprised if Taco Bell was a byproduct of
Chipotle.
gas. Chipotle. Okay.
Chipotle has a customer support agent on their website, and people have been using it to solve coding problems. And I actually went to one of them recently, and I was like, "Hey, can you help me figure out if P equals NP?" And I got a full description of why that wasn't possible, and that if we could
That's really
do it,
nice.
we would break all of computational modeling. Oh, it was great. It was great.
I have
Um,
basically in products that let you kind of chat with an agent, the backstop is a specific user, however identified in that product, cannot spend more than like X many dollars in a given period of time. So if you go down that route and you've succeeded to getting by my prompt, you're going to get stopped at some point, being like, okay,
well,
you've blown your budget.
here's the problem. This is just wide open to the internet. You don't have to be a user, which means that they would determine that based off of IP or cookies. I know how to get around both of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you put some of these stops in, you can slow you down and makes it harder for you to solve any serious coding problem in that. Now, if they start running any newer models, we can then talk because they're so expensive, they might be worthwhile going back and saying, okay, Chipotle, can you write code?
So, which brings us to expensive model. Fable 5 from Anthropic was released this past week. And it is a Mythos class model with apparently an extraordinary number of biological guardrails and not a lot else. And
Wasn't there
that
code
is
security guardrails as well?
supposedly. However, it will not answer basic questions about biology.
And
Hey,
it says like
people.
if you won't know when it's cut you off. That's what was in the news today. That
Oh,
if it cuts you off, it's going to throw you down at 4.8, and you will be none the wiser.
yeah. Well, people were getting hard rejections on biology. And maybe it was just the fact that they had messed up the model switching for that set of class of questions. But it is so I have so and the very important thing, it is twice as expensive as Opus 4.8.
Well, that's kind
Further,
of slightly misleading because it's twice expensive, but it's also not going to be included in a few days. I think June 22nd. It's not going to be included in your base Claude subscription, so it's not going to be twice expensive. Apparently, you can blow a lot of dough on that one.
my take on it is that the last model the series that we will get on the Claude Code Max plan is Opus 4.8, is the 4.8 line. I would not be shocked if they never added 5 in. It is now at this point, it is in their best interest to begin to collect as much as they can, which will be interesting because it's going to open up an extraordinary number. If I had to literally pay for every token I used in Claude Code, I couldn't afford it. like,
Well, I think you probably could, but it would still change things, right? So I think right
yeah,
now I'm paying $200 to $400 a month for this, and if I change to actually, use everything, I would be spending, I don't know, maybe a few grand a month. So then I would actually start billing those back to clients. And for
well,
some of the clients that be the really high users, they might, consider losing a head because they're getting the velocity, and it's like, okay, well that doesn't make a ton of sense, or it does make a ton of sense. Now, again, I don't think this is going to be like I will get rid of all my engineers because I'm going to be paying so many in tokens because you still need someone with a brain to run the show. And if you're listening to this, in 6 months from now, that may or may not be the case. But I think as of June 2026, you still need someone to run the show.
yes, you do. Yeah, no. So I've been using the model for the past 2 days, and I can't really tell the difference between Fable and Opus 4.8. However, what I will say is that at this point, I have been running Opus 4.8 in auto mode exclusively, and not only just in auto mode, but I will do stuff like, hey, go grab the top 15 GitHub issues, spin up a Claude code session for each of them in iTerm, and drive them to completion. And so I managed to lock up my machine by running it completely out of RAM several times.
Yes, you can do that now.
Yeah, which is surprising, especially it's on this one, the
Yeah.
36 gig.
And the first one is like you have to it stops Slack. So it's like, okay, now I have to get back to Slack. And then it stops like your
Yeah.
browser. And you have to go
Oh,
undo
yeah.
all those. So 8
Yeah.
to 10 terminals for me seems to be the limit on a Mac Studio. So I'm now
Okay, so
contemplating,
contract.
do you want to run these on the cloud? And
Yeah.
now you're going to add to your token costs, you add some other costs. But I think we may be getting to that. I was running this off my laptop and it was literally getting too hot to actually sit on my lap.
Yeah. Mhm. I have seen the same behavior. It's
2026
funny because
problems.
I think 10 concurrent sessions is my threshold as well. So the first time it happened, I mean, I was just shocked. I was like, what? What do you mean there's no RAM? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that. Yeah, because
it-
Claude,
it-
so I run a VM that has all my stuff in there that runs multiple Claudes. And I think each Claude can run its own VMs in there. So it gets out of hand pretty quick.
yeah, it's agents all the way down. So, anyways, I have significantly accelerated my pace of development, and I'm wondering if, as a result, I'm just not able to see the difference because everything is running on autopilot. I have a set of an Android and an iOS app, as well as a brand new backend that I'm working on for a different project. And what I've been doing is I'll start up 3 different sessions, and I'll have one kind of be the lead, and then I'll tell the other 2 to listen to the commits and then say, bring yourself to parity over here. And so with Fable, what I did instead was I went to the directory above and said, here's all the user feedback, make it work, which is basically the whole prompt. And it's been chugging along just fine. So
Yeah, I mean,
could've
that
done
part I
with-
find this works really well once you give it what to do. But the loop that I'm currently stuck in and I'm doing some work to get unstuck from is I want to now you can basically start reading from the ticket system because I don't want to have to go interact with
That's
you
what I do.
directly. For me, that's kind of like still okay. What's ready? What's not? What's got a spec? Like some things is just okay. Just go do this. Some things okay that we need to talk about before you go ahead and do this. So that workflow needs a little tweaking. And then when code is produced, sometimes it's like okay, I need like you look at the files and okay, I need to see that database migration. I need to see that schema file. Yeah, I don't care like your database layer. Does that have tests? Cool. Maybe skim the tests, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you can have the critic kind of go look at some of these. And I think that's kind of like it does some of these internally, but I want to see some of these externally so I can see what it's done until I can develop a bit more trust that it's doing this right. But then some of these things have like UI testing that needs to happen. And some of it is straightforward.
Yeah.
Like you can do it locally. Some of it you need to deploy it somewhere and test it because it has third-party services. So I'm trying to like figure out how to like tie in those loops, right? And in YOLO mode, you can tell it, okay, just you do whatever you need. But that gets pretty sketchy pretty fast. So I'm trying to say, okay, can we leverage here's all the credentials and I go log in production and test everything. Okay. No.
Is auto mode not working for you? Or like, is it the credentials that are the problem?
Well, there's credentials is what I want to give it access to. Right. So then I'm trying to figure out like, can I limit it so I can build little tools where I can give my VM. So there's one VM that everything runs in. And I want to give that VM only specific access. So I can have like one choke point where I can let Claude loose because it's hard to control him. But I can kind of choke it at the VM and say, okay, here's what you have, here's what you need. You can go get these credentials from here, but you don't have access to everything. And then kind of finish that loop. So like it goes, it does the PR, it goes, tests it, shoots the video, and then I can just look over the video and go, yeah, that's what I wanted,
Okay.
or go back, fix this.
So we've actually taken like a slightly different approach. So anytime you open a PR,
Is that your polite way of like, Thanos, that's a terrible idea?
no, I honestly like I can actually see the appeal of what you're doing. Like there's probably a cost savings in there. Cause like we literally, let me put it this way. Our entire CI/CD infrastructure starts at the PR, which is I think pretty common. But we spin up a copy of production as a result. And we also launch like 15 different types of tests and multiple code reviews from AI. And one of the things we do is we have a set of credentials that we will rotate on every PR. And so I know that I can let the model have those credentials because they're going to be throwaway. Once the PR environment disappears, they're gone. But now also, like, I also give my model SSM, get what is it? AWS CLI access. So, I may be living very dangerously.
Well, no, I think you can do that, and you can do that safely. You just have to, and that's what the part that I haven't done is figure out what is a good IAM policy on AWS that gives it read access to debug what it needs only to the right bits that it needs, and then sort of bake that in the VM that runs all your Claude instances. And that's just like clunky, and I just hate IAM, and it just takes so long to get it right. But that's the next thing, right? Because these are sort of investments that really get you moving.
Yeah.
Once you get out of that loop.
What I can tell you is if you just give it all the permissions, it's easy.
No, that's how I ran. That's how I
know.
ran. But one day it came back to me and said, and I've deployed this to production. And I'm like, wait, you did what?
Okay.
And it's
I will say this.
hey, that's not cool. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I should have checked with you. You're very right. I should always check with you from production. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're getting the key. Yeah. Hand the keys back.
Yeah. The only way we can deploy to production is through a GitHub action. So I mean,
right, but it has GitHub keys because it needs to like read stuff and push PRs and all that stuff. And actually, Git is actually not that good because there's some things you can't pull apart. So, for example, I had it in some projects like I just push straight to main because I'm just working on it. But with other people, you can't push to main and break it. Like if I break it on a project I'm solo, okay, I'll just fix it and I'm blocked until I put time in it. But if I break through other people's work, they kind of tend to get a bit more antsy. So then you have to take the keys away and saying you can only push to PRs.
Which sucks because now you've lost so much flexibility in that process. I still maintain that my goal is to be able to allow an agent to pick up an issue from GitHub issues and run the whole thing to the point of also saying, okay, we're releasing now. And it's scary and it's terrifying. I've let it run through twice now up into the PR, or not the PR, but the like go release. And the only reason I didn't let it release is we still have like a 1 minute window in which we can suffer data loss. And so, yeah, it's because of the swap over in Aurora and like all this. I'm like, this is
Well,
stupid.
considering also the AI could write you a PR that has a migration that just dumps the database.
Actually, we are fairly well protected against that because all of our migrations run on startup. And so if the PR environment, which matches production, if the database goes away, it's going to be real obvious real fast. Could it go
Assuming it
sideways?
hasn't also
Right.
removed the tests that check for whatever it was doing because it
The
went in a
system
loop. And
doesn't start. The system went like
yeah, well,
it bails immediately. So look, we can both come up with amazingly nightmarish situations that can occur. The
yeah,
fact of the matter at this point is I have not had many of them occur. And when they did occur, I was able to recover. So
yeah. I mean, I do like database backups. So if it were to do that, I would be able to
yeah.
recover like at point in time. And also at the same time, database migrations is the one thing that I do read because
Okay.
they're hard to get by. Like if you break database, it's kind of like, you know, to take system down, you have to recover data by hand, and it's just not fun. And I'm going to be yelled at from many times while that happens. So that's kind of the thing that
I
if
will.
you're, I was gonna say if you're down for a little bit and you just have to pull a different version, that happens in minutes. But like
Yeah.
now, if you have to start looking at the database log and okay, what's the last thing that Bob did? And yeah, let me stitch this by
Well,
hand.
we have blue green. So we roll from blue to green. And actually, it bit me. God, it bit me bad. I didn't realize we weren't cleaning up Aurora instances.
Oh, whoops.
And it got expensive as fuck. I was like, I got a call from Peter. He was like, Mike, what the hell happened to our AWS bill?
Whoops.
You 4x'd it last month. I was like, what happened? Then come to find out, I had found a bug that I didn't know was there. But one of the things I found was part of the reason that we weren't cleaning them up was something silly had gotten set on the GitHub action. And so if you started a new cleanup, it shut all the other cleanups down.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
It was
But
like,
the other thing you can do is you put on your CI/CD something that checks for how many oldish
yeah, we
things
have
you
that
have
now.
that haven't been cleaned up. And if there's
Yeah,
more than 5, yeah, go run that manually. And
yeah, we have that now. We
yeah,
have that now. And it runs every day.
yeah,
So yeah, that was exciting. But
the catch-all cruft.
I will tell you, my team has started to regularly curse me because when you land 10 PRs at once and then begin merging them in one after the other,
It's like, hey, I gotta rebase everything now.
and I'm like, and then I tell them, I'm like, I've been telling you to break up your tickets, like break up your branches. Like,
I
not
think
my
Michael,
fault.
that's fair. I think that's fair. I think if you have that many
Um,
long-standing things, it's your own darn fault.
yeah, but okay, I will say that. Like, what does long standing mean now? Because
A
long
day.
standing, yes, that's the point. It's like, man, I just went to bed. I came back and I have so many
But
merge
if you went to
conflicts.
bed, that means you have like 12 hours of work in process that's just going to stay there. Like you could
Uh-huh,
have just shipped
uh-huh.
it that night.
Aren't you token maxing, bro?
Yeah, right.
And with token maxing, let us shift to my favorite part of the program, Bonos. I pissed off the vibe coders.
Congratulations.
I pissed them off. So
Now, when we say
I
vibe coders, we mean true vibe coders or we mean responsible
oh,
engineers that are using AI to code?
that's the funny part. Nobody knows what vibe coder means. And so not only did I piss off the people without professional or formal software engineering experience, but I also pissed off the people with professional software engineering experience because nobody knows what vibe coder means.
I think the
But
guy that defined the term knows what it means. I think he's explained it a few times.
actually, he's gone back and said, I hate that term. Like,
Well,
I wish
okay,
I had never said
fair
it.
enough.
Yeah.
But
In my parlance, a vibe coder is someone that does not have formal software experience. It doesn't have to do with a degree. Okay. It is somebody that has worked in some kind of engineering capacity before and is not just sitting at the terminal YOLOing, but instead is making informed decisions based on the potential risks that may arise. So post I
Sorry,
put
the
out,
vibe coder does not have formal engineering experience, but is actually trying to make the correct choices.
no, they don't even know that there are choices to be made.
Oh, okay.
They're
I
a
was going to
full
say,
novice. They're a full
yeah,
novice.
I would take it a step further, perhaps, and I would say that the vibe coder is that person that not only doesn't know that, but also doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like explicitly, like I don't care what it does. I'm going to do this thing anyway.
hmm
Like they know, they probably know in the back of their head they shouldn't be doing that. I think that's an element in there.
No, they don't. They actually
Mm.
don't.
I mean, yeah, this
Um,
could be Dunning Kruger happening in there as well.
yeah, there's a lot of Dunning Kruger. What is it? Dunning Kruger in there. There's a lot of Dunning Kruger in our nation in general right now. Okay, so the entire post starts with vibe coders can't scale. And there were a few really interesting aspects of this. Number one, I had to like tell engineers that are doing agentic engineering, no, you're not a vibe coder, dude. Like, because they'll be like, I've migrated plenty of backends. I know how to do this. How can you
Did you
say
look at the
no?
code? Yes, then you're not a vibe coder. Moving on.
You're not a vibe coder. Oh, so one guy comes in, he goes, this is absolutely ridiculous because I have migrated so many systems across so many platforms so many times. And I'm like, bro, you are not a vibe coder. Like, you're a senior level software engineer or higher that happens to be using agents to program. He was like, oh, oh, I like that.
Yeah, that sounds much better. Yeah, I think I might get a
Sounds
raise
much
with
better.
that.
Yeah. No, but the funny thing is that not only did people not know what vibe coding meant, a lot of people didn't know what scaling meant.
I was going to say, scaling for me has many dimensions. So, which one did you refer to, and which one did you get in trouble for?
So well, I didn't actually refer to a specific measure.
That's
And
really good trolling because then you can define it after the fact. I mean,
I
whatever
can
you
define
might
it
be more
after. Yeah,
fun later.
it can be whatever I want. And I also, but there was this consistent comment that kept coming through, which was, why do I need to scale? Supabase can do it for me. And so,
Oh, we're going to need to talk.
oh, dude, God, between these two posts, there were just angry people everywhere. So, in the first place, typically when I think about scaling, it is, depending on the type of application, right? At the base level, you have some kind of contention for resources. And so, depending on what the thing is, it might be bandwidth, it might be compute, it might be database capacity, and you are regularly trying to work your way out of some kind of resource contention. In a lot of systems, the way it will show up is based on concurrent users. And so I will ask the question, what can we handle 10 concurrent users? Okay, good. What happens when we go to 100 concurrent users? Okay, good. Can we get to 1,000? And and you go by a factor of 10 each time. And boy, things fall apart fast. If you're running a single Docker container on an underpowered machine and you say, can I go from 10 concurrent users to 100? The answer is no. You can't. If you've got a relatively competent backend, can you get to 100 concurrent users?
What's
Absolutely.
is your backend in Python or JavaScript?
Yeah. Well, Python is, I hate Python.
I love
It's
Python,
just-
but it's outgrown its time. Sorry,
it's
sorry, Python.
single-threaded. How is it? How is
Yeah,
it?
there's that little problem too.
Just a rant, just a rant. How is it that the two most prevalent languages in the world are both single threaded? Who thought this was a good idea?
And not typed. You know,
And not Tom. It's like somebody, have you ever played a Souls game?
no.
It's okay. So I play Elden Ring, right? And the whole premise behind the game is that you're going to fight something like a boss and you're going to die 100 times. And then you're going to figure out the trick and you're going to be excited because now you know how to do it. And so you win on the 101st time. Okay. And then the people that get really good win every time. And that's kind of like what it feels like working with Python and JavaScript for real serious tasks is its hard mode because you can blow yourself up in so many ways. Like, I know for a fact right now that we cannot scale to more than 100 concurrent users because our current Python setup is
But that's
handled
pretty straightforward. It's
single
like, hey,
threaded.
Claude, could you rewrite this thing in Go, please? Okay.
I-
And it will say, I think
Yeah,
that's a 3 to 4 week task. And it'll be like, yeah, sure, go for it. And then an hour later,
go
it'll be
ahead and
done.
do it. Yeah. I actually do want to do a comparison between like what happens if you do something with Go, convert it from Python to Go, and like,
I've actually done this recently, and it
Mhm.
was fantastic.
Was it?
Um, yeah, I had a bunch of file parsers that were written in Python, and
Mhm.
they were awful because they
Mhm.
lasted 20 years and different functionality went different ones. Anyway, I do this in Go. So I basically set the agent and said, go find, for each file parser, go find 1,000 files
Mhm.
and then parse them. So now you get a good golden data set. Now look at code coverage and start removing files that don't add to code coverage. So now I can come up with a minimal data set that basically runs through and tests everything. And when I had that, I had golden input, golden output. Go rewrite this whole thing in
Mhm.
Go until the tests pass. And looked it over, cleaned up some architectural things. Tests still pass, and it's gone to production this week, next week.
I
It's
know how I'm
pretty
gonna.
awesome.
I know how I'm gonna test Fable. I'm going to release our agent core in Go. I'm gonna see if I can get it running, but I'm just gonna tell Fable rewrite our agent core
Yeah.
backend in
You'll
Go.
need some kind of
Make
testing
it
thing, but
deployable.
yeah, in and out there.
Oh,
But I
that
want to
would
bring it
be
back to scaling, right? Because I think when you
yeah.
said this resource contention, you mentioned
Mhm.
all things that sounded computery. But I think there's
Yeah.
also resource contention in our heads, and there is resource contention in organizational structures. And you can get resource contention in many places. So one of the things that can
Mhm.
happen is you can make it run and go, and now it runs fast, but you have so many PRs and so many features that no one actually knows how it works. And when you put a new feature, now it starts interacting with existing features that you have and you break it. So you can't scale features. Or your code base is laid out in so many repos and folders and whatever. So when you have more than X engineers, now you can't make any changes anymore because you're all stomping on each other. So there's other kinds of
Mhm.
contentions that I think develop over time. So when you say we can scale, you have to be super explicit as to what angle do we want to scale against? Do I want to, I know I'll have from 3 engineers to 10. Okay, so we need to scale against that. From
Mhm.
10 requests, I want to go to like 100 per second. Okay, we need to scale against that.
Mhm.
I will have 1,000 customers. Okay, well, how do we support? We need to scale that one, and so on and so forth. So I think that's kind of a super interesting the word scale of okay, exactly what you want to scale because you make different trade offs depending on what you want to scale, and clearly you can't scale
Yeah.
everything. You have to make some choices here. I mean, you can scale everything; it just
Mhm.
gets a lot more expensive quickly.
Well, and that yeah. So what's interesting is so I was merely talking about computery things, and the number one answer that came up in the comments after all the people that are vibe coders and all the people that thought they were vibe coders, but the number one answer that popped up was either A, Claude, make this scale, make no mistakes.
Okay.
Like, and I would just answer, why don't you go try this? Tell me how it works out.
I mean, look, 6 months from now that might actually work, but I'm not sure today where we're at. This is gonna be a happy
Yeah,
outcome.
that actually people would say, well, your assumption is these models don't get better. I'm like, that is not my assumption. I am saying you cannot do it right now.
I mean, you can
So,
do it that way. You could say, Claude, we're
mhm,
having a performance problem. I want you, I'm running out of this. I want you to go look at all these things and tell me what could be consuming this, then make a plan, give me your top 10. Then you probably throw half them away and say, now go work on these three. Like you could probably get good results that way. But if you say, make me scale,
well, and the point being is that most vibe coders are not going to know to go through those series of questions you just asked. And they're going to
yeah,
say, make it scale. And unless they hit the prompt, whatever, the golden moment just right, it is unlikely that the model is going to come back and say, oh, well, what do you mean by scale?
you know what's going to
Uh,
happen, right?
mhm.
Someone's going to do this with Mythos or Fable next week and going to
uh,
come and tell us we're wrong because
I
this was
did,
like,
I
yeah,
did,
you recorded this in the first week of June. And by the third week of June, it's now actually
yeah,
changed.
yeah. I actually thought
And
about
actually,
that
Mythos is
because
very capable, and you can just tell it go scale, and it,
Mhm.
it did it for my project.
So the day that it released, that shortly before
Whole 2 days ago.
Fable, Fable released like a day and a half later after I put this thing out. So I may have to eat all my words. But the second comment was, why do I need to scale? Supabase does it for me.
When you say Supabase, we're talking about the same company that was making all your tables public by default, and you had to go and make it private. That's the scalable one.
Yeah. The
They
one
changed
that
this recently, I think.
charges you per user, the one that
Yeah,
charges you per gigabyte, the one that charges you for network traffic, that one.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that
and
one.
your databases are by default IPv6, so you can't connect to them. That was fun.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, you have to jump through some hoops to get the IPv4 connectivity to get going, and it's just like really.
Yeah. So I
I
made a
mean, cool for
follow-up.
some things. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
like, yeah, I don't get it. I don't run it anymore.
So I made a follow-up video where I basically talk about, hey, listen, Supabase is a dumb choice. Now, here's why. And talked a lot about, hey, look, you're making architectural decisions and they're going to be very, very hard to recover from if this goes bad. And, having to show, look, this is a hockey stick graph, the number of users you have. You get past about 1,000 users, man, and all of a sudden that thing starts getting vertical. And I made a lot of people angry with that. There's a lot of Supabase stands out there. And now the other thing I did was I offered why don't you start with this? And I put out a GitHub repo that's basically just a relatively straightforward Python and TypeScript based web app stack running on Postgres. Very simple. The whole thing runs in Docker. It's great for local development. And one guy comes in, he goes, that's right. Shilling for your own repo, gonna make all the money. I'm like, bro, it's free.
You charge for that repo, right? Yeah.
It's free, man. Just go. I was like, yeah, shilling for the man. Shilling for the man.
Yeah. That said, I will question the choice of TypeScript there because I've been getting to swear TypeScript at times because there's so many freaking config choices. And it is ESM or is it 2017? And ESLint just changed again, and the config is just broken, and just the deployment of that thing is just becoming a mess. You look at Go, and it's like Go build, and then just take that executable and put it on any Linux system, and we're more or less running.
Well, the only time I use TypeScript is if I'm doing React on the front end.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck with that one.
Yeah, I do not. There's no way, shape, or form I'm going to run TypeScript to be a node in the back end. Like that's worse than Python Flask or Fast API, right? I'd rather run straight JavaScript.
Some issues there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but I think jQuery called and they said they want your business back.
Yeah. But so, anyways, the long story short is there's like a woeful misunderstanding of scale. And what was really interesting is you could tell who had done computer software, computer engineering, computer science before, because those people just knew what scale meant. And now they might not have known there's a further argument for there's trade-offs. Every decision you make right now is a trade-off in the future. And that, I hit a trade-off recently that had ramifications I did not expect because I conflated users and agents. And it ended up causing a lot of problems in the database. I should have had very discrete separation between these two things. And we ended up in a position where, oh, wow, why can agents be super users? Has anybody checked on that?
No, nothing bad could happen there.
It's fine.
Ship it.
Yeah. Oh, it was already shipped. I realized when that happened, I was like, why the fuck did that agent, pardon me, why the fuck did that agent just do something it should not be able to do?
So like add a second phone number to your account for the second factor, something like that?
Well, it turns out it was my agent. And when it created as a super user because my account was a super user.
So your users could do deploys for a short period of time.
It was crazy. Yeah. No, we literally walked it back ASAP.
To go back to your question, scale, I think that is sort of very true for, I think, even most people that have trained as engineers. I used to do interviews back when I worked for the big guys. And one of my favorite problems was you taking the user knob and you're dialing it from 10 to 100 to 1,000. What's going to break? And I try to get people to reason, is it going to run out of RAM? Is it going to run out of CPU? Is it going to run out? What is it going to do? And almost no one got the answer to this question. It wasn't like a rocket science kind of question, right? It'd be like, oh, it would run out of CPU. And it was like, there was a lot of network stuff happening. It's like, why? Well, what's it actually doing? Oh, wait, nothing. Well, then it's going to run out of memory. It's like, maybe.
One of the things I did a lot of as I was thinking through this, like, how do I want to explain it? And everybody was like, hey, Claude, go scale my system. There's a distinct irony in there, which is that the beginning is squishy. What does a good system look like? The middle is just chaos, but the end has a relatively consistent pattern that everybody uses that is based on, queues and worker nodes and a distributed database that, you've got a really nice edge and you're farming it out throughout the system. And what's ironic here is it's almost easier to start there because it is such a clear pattern.
It is not almost easier. It is absolutely easier. And this is what I've done in a bunch of greenfield projects recently. And
Yeah.
there is no way, unless you're like even reaching like Uber scale, there is no reason for thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of users you really should be having any problems with the scaling unless you've done crazy stuff. Like there
What
isn't
did-
anything that we do with databases and systems that can take requests and handle them fairly straightforward. You'll hit your N+1 problem, but that's an easy fix. You go fix and take that and make it from N+1 to a 2 query, and you're done.
Let me ask you a question, Athanas. Would you start the project that way?
Absolutely.
Okay. So when we go to deploy that project for the first time, what trade-off are we making?
You spent a day with Claude rather than no time with Claude, and then you're scalable for the rest of the project's experience.
But how much is it going to cost to run Kubernetes versus a single EC2 instance?
A base project will run you $250
A month.
A month on Amazon. Which is like if you're on a single instance, you can get away with 50. But like, is that $200 a month like gonna be worth it? Like, it's one engineerish hour of fixing stuff. So if you save 12 months, you save 12 hours of work engineering wise. It is absolutely worth it. So actually, I can recent story because I actually looked at that and figured, you know what, that's expensive. The Kubernetes cluster in AWS is $70 plus the other stuff's going to run up a bill. So I'll run it over here like Linode or something like that. And it can be 20. A couple months later, just got shut down, went to Amazon. It's like, I'm not dealing with this crap because it was so many unknowns. It just works in so many different ways. It just scales in a different way. Everything was just a little weird. And I just want a standard Kubernetes cluster that I can just run things off of. Now, for me, for all my projects, I run them off one cluster. And if they somehow become like more paying or higher thing, they might get split in different clusters. So there's some tweakings I have to do, but at least it's directionally kind of in the right way. But there is no way I'm doing it on any other possible system because, like, now again, you spin up on an EC2, right? And now you need to do preview releases. Well, that doesn't really work. And now you want a staging environment. Well, okay, that doesn't really work. That's not really replicatable. Now I want a temporal cluster. That's going to be tough. Or now I want my or Redis. I have to make the Amazon one. I can't just throw a Kubernetes Redis that will take me 2 minutes to do. I have to go write 6 hours of CloudFormation. So it pays back in spades.
Okay, good. You've been doing software engineering for what, a year and a half, 2 years?
In total, yeah. I graduated from college. What was it, like just after COVID?
2023.
I'm coming up to 30 years of software engineering.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to push 25. And so, yes, I agree with you. Like, probably, we'll choose to do exactly that on new projects. However, if you're a vibe coder, you wouldn't even know that that's an option.
Correct.
And on top of it, as a vibe coder, is your product even going to be worth deploying such that they're willing to eat the $200, $250 a month?
Maybe not, but I think that's still where engineering has some value. And again, this may change because Claude may be able to tell you this in the future when you try to vibe code and say, hey, have you thought about these things? But I think right now, you still need someone that can see around the corner and say, hey, Bob, that idea of running on Linode is not that great because here's what's going to happen and how much more it's going to cost you fixing this later. Now, again, and it doesn't have to be like do it this way. It's like, here's the trade-off. Understand it before you move forward, right? And I think these engineering trade-offs still need us for at least another week or two, or maybe a few months. Who knows?
Maybe.
But right now, it's not there yet. I think it's going to get there. Like, the same way I didn't think agents were going to be 3 months out, but they were 3 months out. I think that's actually going to start happening faster and faster as you move up the levels of abstraction. I think we repeatedly talked about that, but like, it's the fun part will be as we keep learning and keep staying on top of it to find out what the other cool things are.
Actually, I want to reminisce with you real quick. It's a year ago, June of 2025. Do you remember what it was like back then? Feels like forever.
I think I was like going away from autocomplete and starting to use something like Rue or Klein, where you would not trust it running anything. You'd look at everything it did, and generally you'd look at every little change it made one at a time to make sure it hadn't gone off the rails. And it'd be going off the rails about 30% of the time. So no, back to here. No, don't delete all the tests. That's bad. No, you've already built this over there. Don't build it again.
So I think that was in the time period that we were using like Opus 3.7, maybe. And I made a comment to you one day. I said, yeah, dude, I'm not using an editor anymore. Like, it's just not working out. And you thought I was insane. You're not using an editor? What is wrong with you? Like,
We'll
very
argue at the time
discriminating.
you may have been insane, but maybe we'll call it
I
you're
was
in the very
insane.
cutting edge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was insane. And now I would go read the code because Claude would still, print out all the changes, and I would still have to open things up every once in a while where I'd be like, yeah, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Let me tell you what to
But
do.
it was the days where you have to tell it, and I want really small changes because I'm stupid. So don't try and
Yes.
give me like 1,000 lines of code because it would try to
Right.
do that, and they were
It
not
would, it
good.
would. No, they were not. You'd go to run it and the thing wouldn't even like start.
Even it's in Python, yeah, it was
Uh-huh.
you're doomed.
Mhm. So now we're talking about running entire projects across multiple interfaces in a backend with a couple prompts. There's still a lot that is not solved, but man, it's like it is an
Yeah.
unbelievable world.
I don't know about you, but now my IDE is off to the side window and Claude is on the middle window. It used to be that the IDE was in the middle window and Claude was off to the side. Now that is reversed because most of the work happens here.
I do have VS Code installed. I wasn't certain.
I
had to check.
I just got a new laptop, and the first time I hit
New
Raycast
computer.
to say run code, and it's like, you don't have this installed. And it's like,
You don't have it
a month
installed.
later, and it's like, oh, really?
Yeah. Uh-oh. Yes. No.
I should need to look at some code.
I did have to install Xcode recently.
Apparently, the new one is getting rave reviews for some of my clients, so
Yeah, you know why? It's a
it
harness.
has more AI stuff.
It's a harness. It's
Yeah.
not Xcode. They've made it into a harness. I
Maybe I'll go
remember
write some Swift.
now I'm really reminiscing because this morning I thought, maybe Thanos was right. So back in the early days in the company that we worked together in, you came.
That was in the Ice Age, right?
There was, yes,
It was in the
before the AI time. So we had iOS and we had Android apps for the company, and they were woefully out of sync, bad. And you came to me one day and I was on the iOS team, and you were like this super special senior staff engineer, right? And you said, hey, what do you think about converting everybody over to React Native? And I don't know if you remember my response to you, do you?
I think it was a no.
It wasn't a no. It was the iOS team will probably quit. And so today,
And
yeah, and you actually really
not to be flippant about it, but in all seriousness, like, having written these kinds of apps before, if you have like deep hooks into the OS, you kind of really want the integrations because they do useful stuff. But for what we had, it was like a forms and lists kind of app. And you could have probably gotten away with writing it in React Native and one code base and everything worked the same. And move all the stuff server side and less stuff to release, etc. So
I'm starting to have PTSD reactions at this point, thinking about the way the iOS app worked. But yeah, no, I was actually thinking about, okay, well, I'm trying to keep these Android and iOS apps in sync, and they're actually doing a pretty good job. And then I just was like, maybe I should just do it in React Native. And I was like, oh, it's tempting, but I don't think I should. So it was definitely.
Back then you probably couldn't, right? Because that would be a refactoring. You'd have to get like the whole teams in, and like you said, the team would probably quit. So now you could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I've pointed Xcode I've pointed Claude to a web project and said, make this in Xcode, literally just more or less like that. And then I had an app a couple hours later.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, man. Well, it's been exciting.
Fascinating times.
Yes. This week we will report in on Fable. What I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to task it to rewrite our backend in Go in a single prompt and see if it can handle it, including being able to deploy to our current infrastructure, which should be really interesting. And then the other thing I'm going to do is see if it will rewrite our backend to deploy in Kubernetes as opposed to Fargate, which is what we're doing right now. So should be pretty interesting. I'll let you know what comes out.
So I have a Kubernetes to Fargate one that's probably deploying in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a similar rewrite. I had to actually make it, okay, I want to do this. What's the plan? It goes, analyzes, makes the plan, I correct it, then send it off. So I'm curious if we can now do this in one shot.
I'll try one shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing to try, right? Because it will work or it won't, and then we'll know.
Yeah. All right. Humans of Earth, thank you for joining us on Will AI Snap That? My name is Michael Rollins, and I am joined as always by my co-host Thanos, he of the Snapdom. We wish you well. May you continue to thrive under your new AI overlords. We bid you adieu.